Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities from the city of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald, and this broadcast comes from one of our city's most beautiful backyards. You won't want to miss it. You're watching In Edina. Well, here we are in one of Edina's most beautiful backyards, and we'd like to thank Diane Plunkett-Latham for letting us be here. This is unbelievable. It's heaven back here.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you
I
today.
want to ask you about this in just a moment, because I also want to introduce the president from the Edina Garden Council, Diane Bomstad. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
My pleasure. We're going to talk about gardening, and we are in, like I said, heaven back here. Take a minute and show off your beautiful place.
Thank you. We began planting the garden in 2004, and it took us 3 years to implement it. And this year we're finally done, and we had it on the Edina Garden Council tour.
Wow. And you have over 400 plants here?
Approximately 400 varieties of annuals, perennials, a lot of tropical plants. They're our specialty, and we take all those inside in the winter. All the voodoo lilies, taros, callas, cannas.
And you've got to be stacked floor to ceiling in the garage here.
That is correct. We have a lot of egg crates full of bulbs in the garage.
Wow, and it's a lot of work, but of course it's great exercise. The payoff is beautiful, and it smells gorgeous back here as well.
Thank you. That's the giant taros.
I'll have to keep that in mind. And if you want to learn how and participate, get involved.
Join the Edina Garden Council.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Edina Garden Council, because it's not just about backyards and taking care of your own property, but it's also about beautifying the city of Edina. The council is responsible for, how many club members do you have?
Well, we have about 120 plus members and another 40 associate members, and 9 clubs which make up the council, including a youth club.
Wow, okay. And part of the responsibilities of each club is to adopt a garden in the city and beautify it, right?
Plan it and plant it. City takes care of the gardens and waters them for us, but we plan what's going to be there and plant the seeds and plant the gardens in May.
If somebody's got to roll up their sleeves and design it and then plant it. Where do all the plants come from?
We order our seeds really in December the previous year, so we plan ahead, and we have a greenhouse coordinator, and she works closely with Tim Zimmerman, horticulturist at Arneson Park, to order the seed every year.
Wow. So you're talking about growing enough plants to beautify 9 different sites plus in the city.
Plus we purchase and plant the seed for just about every plant you see in the city parks.
Okay, so you organize this with monthly meetings. The council meets, is it the first Monday of every month?
The council meets the first Monday of each month, 9:30, and the clubs meet at various times throughout the month. They also have monthly meetings.
And so that involves, of course, planning for each of the gardens, understanding changes and projects that are coming up, environmental changes I'm referencing, in fact, in the city, and how that impacts all. Plus, you get some tips on how to take care of things at home, right?
Wonderful. We're an educational group. We promote gardening and horticulture, beautification in the parks, and education about these subjects. We provide scholarship money. We work with the larger Garden Council of Minnesota and Federated Garden Council Minnesota, and provide scholarship money for horticultural students. We also work on projects for the parks. Our most recent large project was completion and replacement of the fountain at Arneson Park.
Wow, it's great that you can get involved in that. Of course, it's a volunteer group, and it's a great hobby, and it pays off, doesn't it? As we can see right here all around us. Now, this particular yard was featured on the garden tour, and you're
That's
already
right.
planning ahead for garden tours of the future. Talk a little bit about the tour itself.
That's right. This year we had 6 gardens on the tour, and we're already planning for 2010. We have approximately 20 gardens that are under consideration for 2010, and these are all in northeast Edina. That's the quadrant that we'll be featuring that time. And we have to choose the gardens a year in advance in July so that we can photograph those gardens during July for the following year for the publicity.
Wow.
And we also have about 4 or 5 gardens that are under consideration for 2012, where we'll be going to the northwest quadrant. So we work out quite far. If anyone would like to make any recommendations to us, we're always looking for recommendations for gardens. You can volunteer your own garden, or you can volunteer your neighbor's garden,
But does it
and
have
then
to
we'll
be-
talk
I
to
mean,
them.
I'm thinking of my own garden, and I'm thinking I would never make a tour because it would be the weed tour, unless it's the weed tour, and then I'd be okay.
Oh no.
But I mean, really, I mean, this is just unbelievable, all of the time and effort. And you do all this work yourself, you and your husband, right?
Yes, pretty much. We do have someone who mows the lawn and trims the shrubs, but for the most part, you have to do your own weeding because it's very hard to find people who can identify a weed from a seedling.
Right, they don't want to be tearing out the beautiful flowers. You're also working on conservation projects because I know that's important too as part of your planning. You've got one on the horizon. Talk about that.
Yes. The Edina Garden Council is supporting buckthorn abatement in Edina and noxious weed abatement. And the Kellowdale Garden Club removed the buckthorn and planted native plants on the east side of the Art Center. Also, the Late Bloomers Garden Club removed noxious weeds and planted native plants behind the city greenhouse at Arneson Park. And then we've got a third project which Kevin Clay has done a DNR grant for. Well, we don't know yet whether we've got the grant. We
Sure.
hope we will. But that will be removing buckthorn in another part of Lake Cornelia, and that is an area where there's a lot of naturally occurring wildflowers that we're just going to let come back naturally, where we
Sure.
don't have to replant like we did in these other areas.
Well, I admire your work, and I really appreciate everything you're doing in the city of Edina. It looks absolutely fabulous at home and all around us, and we thank you both for your time today, and we look forward to the blooms of the future.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, it's one thing to take care of a backyard garden. It's another to take care of 24 acres at Centennial Lakes. And the man leading the team is horticulturist Ted Stephenson. Welcome to Edina.
Thank you. Glad to
That
be
is
here.
a big project, a lot of weeds.
Yeah, well, we do have some. We try to stay on top of them.
Well, how do you manage 24 acres?
Well, multitasking is probably the term that we best use. We've got a crew of 3 guys. They're Edina residents. They're college kids that come back. Most of them have come back now 3 years in a row, so it's nice to have a guy that knows where the shovels are.
Yeah, you bet. Your challenge is to make it beautiful so that it's enticing and attractive for people to enjoy, and also practical to take care of. And multitasking is one thing, but obviously you organize projects throughout the season. What's on the horizon? What's happening now, and what do we look forward to?
Well, right now we're in the maintenance mode. You know, spring is the planting time and cleanup planting, and then now we're kind of in the maintaining mode. We're constantly mulching. We've hundreds of yards of mulch every year that we have to reapply because we do use natural mulch, and because it's more appeasing. And pretty soon we'll be, trimming out deadheading the flowers and deadheading the hostas.
Preparing for fall season.
Preparing for fall.
And
yeah.
you've also got a landscaping project coming up because of the retail edition.
Right, we have a new retail project coming in, and part of the landscape will be transformed into something that ties the retail into the park because it's right adjacent to the park. So there'll be a little bit tweaking with our landscape to have them join us.
Now, as a horticulturalist, you obviously have to take care of the land. Do you worry about use of chemicals, or what are you using on that?
Yes, I'm trying to move over to as earth-friendly products as we possibly can. We're putting down corn gluten as a weed preventative as much as we can. That's a very natural, very safe weed preventer. We use selective herbicides where we need them, but not broadcasting them all over everything. And the fertilizers that we're trying to use have no phosphorus and low nitrogen and earth-friendly as much as we can. Yeah.
Well, good for you. Now, you're also managing the pond as well as the bandshell and 1.5 miles of paved pathways. So it's not just about plants and flowers and grass, but it's quite a bit of activity that goes on in those areas.
Yeah, I kind of consider the park into 3 different gardens or parks, and we have kind of a natural park up north in our North Park. It's kind of the more of a North Woods Park, if you would, more passive. The Central Park is a little more active, so when that gets active during the day, we usually go to the other ends of the park to work. And then the South Park is more of a linear park that basically circles the lake that's down there. And I believe we consider 3 lakes: North Lake, South Lake, and Central Lake.
Wonderful.
So we have 3 lakes and 1 pond.
Well, it all looks good. It's a pleasure to be able to walk through Centennial Lakes and enjoy its many activities, and we thank you for making it look good.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Edina.
Thank you.
Well, at the end of a long day working in the yard, why not relax around a campfire? And you can do that here in the city of Edina if you have a permit, right?
Correct.
And joining us to talk about Campfire Regulations, Fire Marshal Tom Jensen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Permits are free of charge, no cost. You just want to know who's having a fire.
Correct.
And how often do we fill out the permit?
We need one once a year, so they can get them online, city's website, and it has all the rules and regulations. And they just put their name and address on there and submit it to us that quickly.
No questions asked, no
Nope.
inspection needed, just need to know where the fires are.
Right.
So you know what the rules are. What are some of the rules?
So some of the rules are where can you have your fire located. So they need to be 25 feet away from your house. And then the fire size has to be no larger than 3 foot wide and 3 foot high with the flame.
Okay. And that's 25 feet away from the house, including a fence, or a house fence, or
Neighbors, structures, if you have a detached garage, any kind of a structure needs to be 25 feet away.
What can we burn? What can't we burn?
We can burn logs that I believe are 1 inch to 3 inches in diameter, or larger, but it's dry, clean wood like you'd have in your fireplace in your house.
Right.
No yard waste. This is not a place to take your clippings and trimmings from your tree and get rid of.
I know that's a temptation,
It is.
but it's really a danger because you won't see it if the sparks from leaves fly up into the roof and
Right.
create a problem.
And the green stuff you've just trimmed creates an awful lot of smoke, and we've had calls for smoke coming from a neighborhood thinking we have a house fire. We sending all the trucks over there, and we get there, and it was just a wreck fire in the backyard, and they were, again, burning the yard waste.
I know when trying to get a fire going, there's a little bit of a temptation to really get it going and use gasoline. And I know, unfortunately, this year we've had an accident because of that. So our warning is no gas on the fire, right?
No flammable liquids, no using lighter fluid, anything. You mean use your newspaper, and get it going like you would your your fireplace.
Be a little patient.
Yeah, and if it's out, it's out. And don't be using those types of things to get them going again, because that's what's caused the 2 incidences.
What about making sure it's out? It's time to go to bed, time to close the evening.
You're supposed to have out there around the fireplace either garden hose, or a shovel or some sand or whatever you can to put on the logs to put the fire out. So best thing to do is wet it down and make sure it's wet down very thoroughly.
Another idea too might be to check for wind and other fire hazards. It's been a pretty good summer, not too dry, but that could happen.
Right, and we do have some restrictions on wind speed. Right now it's 15 miles an hour, so it has to be less than that before you can have it. And we've certainly hear reports of complaints from neighbors about smoke traveling to their house, and we get out there and we find out, you shouldn't have had it today because the winds are too high. So you should be checking wind speed and to make sure that it's not moving into the neighbor's area.
All right, Tom, thanks so much. Burn anytime you want, just make sure you do it safe and have
A little
a permit.
restriction on hours.
All right,
But
what are the hours then?
hours Sunday through Thursdays is up until 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
I think it's 7 in the morning till 10 at night. And Friday and Saturday we let you go till midnight.
All right, good. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, there's not only backyard projects, but there's also a few household projects happening this summer here in the city. And joining us to talk about what to look for when you're looking for a contractor to help you with those projects is Jackie Onischuk. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You are a permit technician for the city.
Yes.
And your job is to help homeowners find contractors or find help around household projects.
Exactly.
Problems with that pop up from time to time. What kind of problems do people experience?
Well, what we try to stress, especially at the front desk there, is that the homeowners hire a licensed contractor. We can't stress that enough. Mm-hmm. And there are ways that the homeowners can go about to find out if the contractors are licensed to do the job.
How do we do that? I mean, how do we find out if they're licensed? Because, you know, if the deal is too good, it probably is too good.
Right. They can check with the state. The Department of Labor and Industry is there to help them out, and we do not issue any permits from unlicensed contractors. They have to have that Minnesota state license.
Okay. When do I need a permit and when don't I need a permit on projects?
Well, you pretty much need permits for just about anything you do around your house. Cosmetic, no. If you're painting or doing floors, stuff like that, you do not need permits. But to change out water heaters or furnaces or just doing change out in your cabinets, you know, to
get a permit.
Big homes.
And of course you're trying to have a permit system so that you create some consistency and adhere to codes in the city so that people are safe and homes are healthy.
Yes, we do have our inspectors do go out to do the proper inspections for all the permits that are being taken out. It's just we have to let the homeowners know that they do have to call in, or their contractors call in, to make sure that these inspections are done so that they can have a safe home.
And of course nothing lasts forever, so it's important to make upgrades and updates to the property. Wiring, for instance, is important.
Right. All electrical permits are pulled through the state. The city of Edina does not handle any electrical, but that is part of the final inspections. We do work with the state inspector on all the projects.
You're talking about a relationship now between a contractor and a homeowner. What are the things I should ask this contractor when I'm sort of interviewing, investigating, or considering somebody to help me?
Well, just make sure that he is licensed. You can go online to make sure that he is licensed with the state. There is a website to go to the Department of Labor and Industry.
Check some references as well.
Yep.
Other homeowners.
And give the city a call to find out if they've done any work in the city. We'd
or
be
if
more
there's
than
many
happy.
poor reporting on particular contractors.
Right. Yep.
What if it's just a handyman type of a person? Same thing?
There are companies out there that are called handyman, and they are licensed with the state to make sure that they are licensed. We want to stress that permits should be pulled by licensed contractors and not the homeowners. So if a contractor does call a homeowner to have them pull the permit, then I would be kind of aware.
But that's a problem because the homeowner then becomes liable of any accident because they pulled the permit. They become liable instead of the contractor.
Yes,
who
and
are
we stress
for
that. When the homeowner comes in to pull that permit, we do tell them that anything that goes wrong within the job, that they are liable. That we do stress that they should have that contractor.
Paying for a contractor is also key. Work with somebody that can work with you on paying them for their services. Some like money up front, but never pay the bill until it's been inspected and thoroughly
exactly.
looked at.
Make sure that your final inspection has been done. Call the city and ask if all the finals has been done, and then any reputable contractor wouldn't be asking for payment in full until that final inspection has been done.
And they should coordinate all of that for you too. And it is a relationship, so work with them, ask the right questions, and check with the city.
Definitely, that's what we're here for.
Jackie, thank you so much for joining us on In Edina.
Thank you.
We appreciate your help with this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, working in the yard can sometimes work up an appetite, and we want to make sure the food is healthy to eat. Joining us to talk about just that, Jeff Brown, Health Inspector for the City of Edina. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You work for the Health Department. What do you do exactly as a health inspector?
Our office mainly focuses on food safety for all the residents in Edina and people that come to visit our establishments in Edina. So we inspect the food service establishments, restaurants, fast food facilities, a minimum of twice a year to ensure that food is safe here in Edina.
Well, you're here to talk a little bit about what we can do as residents to be sure that our food is safe when we're preparing food for others, for instance, for a cookout or something like that. What are some basic ideas?
Well, basically, food safety at home can start in the grocery store. From keeping your food separate in your cart, raw products versus your produce or ready-to-eat products, and making sure that your trip to the grocery store is last on your list of errands versus picking things up and leaving them in your car for an extended period of time. We need to keep that food at a safe temperature.
And when you're talking about extended period of time, how long can we not keep it in the car?
Keeping food in the car for more than half an hour to an hour is basically a bad idea. When you get it home, your refrigerator is going to have to try to catch up and cool that food down to proper temperatures, and your refrigerator is really not made to do that. It's made to maintain temperature rather than cool food.
All right, then when we're going ahead and preparing the food for the grill, some ideas?
Basically, keep raw food and ready-to-eat food separate. For example, if you're preparing a lettuce salad but also are pattying hamburgers, if you're going to do the pattying of the hamburgers first, you need to do that in a separate area versus the chopping of the lettuce, vegetables, things like that. No cross-contamination of hands or utensils,
That
cutting
means
boards.
wash your hands.
Correct. Wash your hands. That's something that we'll probably talk about multiple times, is washing your hands while you're changing tasks between working with different types of foods.
And something as simple as a pair of tongs
Right.
works on the grill.
Right, definitely. Pair of tongs is one of your best tools. Can keep you from touching your products, handling your products too much with your hands. A lot of people like to check to see if things are done. They generally can push things around on the plate with their hands, and it's just a bad idea. Hands are one of the most common causes of problems in food service establishments.
You might even burn yourself, and the tongs will help you with that.
Right.
And now, after we prepared the food, we don't want to bring it back onto a plate that put the raw foods to the grill in the first place.
Right.
That's a common mistake too.
Very common. It's something that happens to me sometimes at home. I have to go back in the house, get a new plate. But when you bring the raw products out on a plate, it's contaminated. You need to treat that like a dirty dish. So once your food is cooked and ready to eat, you need to get a different plate, some other dish to bring it back into the house so you're not contaminating that ready-to-eat product.
We're talking about meats on the grill, and that means cooking the meats well enough.
Right.
How do we know how hot is hot enough for healthy food?
Right. Well, a simple food thermometer that you can get at your local grocery store, Target store, anything
You brought one
like that.
this, just one like this, as
Right,
simple as
just
that.
like this, a dial thermometer. They're relatively inexpensive. There are fancier ones. I have a digital that I use in the food establishments, but anything can work, and you can calibrate them at home with ice water and things like that. But generally, a good cooking temperature is about 170 degrees to shoot for. Some things like whole chickens have a higher temperature, but 170 degrees for a cooking temperature is a good temperature to cook.
Let's talk about potlucks and picnics, leaving food out for those activities.
Right. In general, an hour time limit is a good time to shoot for. Leaving products out longer than that, it can lead to bacterial growth or possible further contamination. So whenever I have a gathering or am at a gathering, I encourage people as we get to an hour, if the product's not eaten or it's sitting out, the quality is probably not as good anyway.
Put it on ice.
Put it in the
away.
refrigerator,
Yeah.
put it away for later, or if leftovers are to be saved, put it away that way.
Last question I want to talk to you about is just basically foodborne illness.
Right.
You don't get sick right away,
Right.
right? So how do you know?
Generally, it can take, the most common foodborne illnesses take from 18 to even 72 hours to appear. Our most common ones are caused by viruses. Also, you hear about different bacteria and things in the news, but the most common viruses cause foodborne illness, and it generally takes 18 to 72 hours to become ill. Many times, someone will think they ate a noon meal or an evening meal and an hour or two later became ill, but it usually is not the case. It usually can be from the day before. So when we do investigations, we do a history of food consumption up to 3 days.
sometimes can be hard for people to remember, but that's how far back we investigate.
Detective work. You're trying to take it all the way back to the salad or the meat or whatever it was that caused the illness, if it did at all.
Right.
Well, the best way to avoid that is to be sure your food is prepared properly. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeff Brown, Health Inspector for the City of Edina.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us, especially Dan and Diane Latham for allowing us to bring you this broadcast from their beautiful backyard. There's still lots of summer left. I hope you get a chance to enjoy it. You've been watching In Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Until next time, have a great day.